What is going on, everyone? Spurs have been beaten 2-1 at home to Ipswich in an absolutely diabolical result and a diabolical performance. We have given now two winless teams their first win of the season. Does it get more Spurs than that? Joining me today, Barnaby, what was with me for the watch long for what was just an atrocious, can't even put to words how we can, given the opportunity we had today to go into this international break into third position, really build some momentum with some really good recent wins and recent performances. We just go and do that at home to a team who hasn't won yet in the Premier League this season after now this is the 11th game. So 10 games without a win. They come to our ground and not only do they win, but they play like they've been, winning games all season. And they saw that game out so comfortably. After what an uptick in, results in recent weeks, this is how big of a blow is this today?
It's depressingly familiar is what I would say. Look, you can defend them a little bit by saying they're a young side, etc. But unfortunately, I think it's an example of the mentality that Big Ange Postecoglou's talked about that seeps through the club from top to bottom, off the pitch, on the pitch, an inability to take opportunities when they come in front of you. And a lot of people are talking about, Spurs need to win a trophy this season. If you cannot beat Ipswich at home, a team who haven't won a game in the Premier League, then what makes you think, even if we did get to Wembley for a semi-final or a final, what makes anyone think that we're going to be able to win a big game? So I don't know why people are thinking that trophies are even possible when it comes to a situation like this, where we've literally thrown the game on Thursday night in the Europa League against Galatasaray. He's played a mix and match team there, thrown it, played abjectly there. And then today, where they just rock up expecting to turn over Ipswich, a team who are fighting for their lives, fighting for their survival, fighting for their contracts. They get to come to a big stadium like Spurs, from the Championship last year. They get to play in these big grounds, and they're gonna play 110, 120%. And Spurs rocked up about 60%, thinking we'll roll these over, we'll go above Arsenal into the international break. Bottle jobs, absolute bottle jobs, and there was no fight, there was no desire, and I fully expect Ange Postecoglou to come out in his post-match press conference and talk again about the fundamentals, about the non-negotiables, as he did before, about the minimum requirements. And it's putting your heart and your body on the line. That first goal is such a perfect example of it. Mm-hmm. Two players who refused to go into a tackle for either fear of maybe giving away a penalty or for fear of getting kicked.
Yeah.
Unacceptable. And we're making the same mistakes over and over. Goals from crosses that we refuse to try and block out, goals at the back stick, and then just a complacency that is not acceptable at Premier League level. And there's a lot of talent in that squad, no doubt about it. But if they do not learn about the mentality needed to win important games when opportunities confront you, they will go nowhere. And they're 10th in the league. They don't draw, they just win or lose. And they embarrass Spurs fans at the exact time when we want it least. The international break hoodoo goes on. Every single time we go into international break, we lose. And we have to spend 2 weeks just hating life, basically. And I can't think of a single player can hold their head up today and think that they did well. They've just outperformed, outfought, outmuscled, and beaten fairly. Ipswich deserved to win that game.
And Ipswich came here with a game plan. Clearly, they switched things up for how they usually play. Similar to what, Palace did. Palace kind of went more front-footed against us. They pressed a bit higher and they caught us off guard. And I think we were caught off guard by Ipswich again today with their switch to a 5 at the back. I think we probably weren't expecting that. They've been playing a 4 at the back most of the season. It meant Leif Davis and Ben Johnson on the wings were getting all sorts of space. When we were forced to kind of go a bit wide, it meant Liam Delap and Smodics and Hutchinson we pretty much couldn't get near them in the middle as well. And it led to what was a disastrous first half where it seemed as though every time Ipswich went forward, we couldn't handle that situation. We couldn't get near Hutchinson. Delap was bullying our centre-backs, and the goals came from too much space in the wide areas, and we weren't dealing with it in the centre whatsoever. I mean, what's so frustrating as well is how different that game could have been if Ben and Johnson puts that chance away in the first couple of minutes after Johnson swings it in. Son swings it in from the left-hand side. Johnson gets a good run on the defender, and it's such a good chance. And if that goes 1-0 after 2 minutes, I think it could be a very different game. Obviously, it doesn't. And instead of that happening, we concede 2 really, really poor goals. And the first one, as you say, Johnson and Porro watching Smodics overhead it, they could have easily dealt with that situation, especially Johnson. He thinks about getting involved in that situation and putting his head on the line, but he pulls away, allows Smodics to get the overhead kick, and bam, it's a goal for Ipswich. And the second goal comes from what was probably one of our best moments of the first half, where we win the ball up high up the pitch. Son gets in a really great position on the left-hand side. He's got 2 to aim at in the middle. He puts it behind both Solanke and don't know who else it was, maybe Kulisev or maybe Johnson. And Ipswich basically break on us from that mischance, and because those players are out of the game, all of a sudden they've got Davis and Smodics on the left-hand side in all sorts of space. They play it down the line, and it's another shit show at the back. Vicario plays into Dragoshin, and it would have been an own goal if it wasn't for Delap putting it in just before it crosses the line. And they were causing us all sorts of problems in that first half. It was really difficult to deal with. They could have been ahead even before they scored, with 2 chances from corners hitting the bar, and I think one of them was just went wide. So they were causing us all sorts of problems. And it's, what is it about us where, if a team catches us off guard and switches things up, it seems like we have no answer to them at the moment.
There's no desire. The desire wasn't there. And I don't know whether it's because they're tired from having to go to Turkey or whatever. But, you talked about a lot of things there, all very worthy points about, was it because they played a 5 at the back, just like Crystal Palace did? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You've got to work harder than the opposition to win any Premier League game. Said it at the beginning, you've got to earn the right to play, and we didn't do it. And then the other thing I want to talk about, and I was banging on about this in the watch-along, so you'll have heard me if you saw the watch-along, but the last 20-25 minutes, when Ipswich in that whole second half, bar maybe two occasions, they just hacked it long the whole time. So we had all the ball. We had the opportunity. You've got to stretch the pitch. You have to stretch the pitch and stretch them. And he brings Werner on. So, you think, he can get down to the byline. But then put Sonny in some kind of bizarre number 10 position where he's just clogging up the field. He puts Kulusevski out on the right. And Kulusevski got on the ball a lot. But you want him in the dangerous areas. You want Kulusevski in the little areas, feeding in Son, coming out wide, little through balls, getting in behind them. We made it so comfortable for Ipswich in that second half. And that is not the first time that Ange has done that. It's not. Time and time again, he's not using his subs well enough. And I'm sorry, Sonny, you're so good, such a great player, but he's an elite player at kind of 1 or 2 or 3 things. He's not Harry Kane. He's not a player who can drop into the number 10 and fling out a ball in between the lines or put someone in like that. We need him on the last line so that the chances fall to him. And at the very last, in the last few minutes, a chance did fall to Dom Solanke, and Sonny actually was in the box and Solanke didn't get his head up and see him. It just had that feeling in the second half. There were a few little bits of luck that didn't really go Spurs' way. A potential penalty wasn't there, and a disallowed goal for Solanke that kind of came off his hand, that if his hand hadn't been there would have gone in anyway. Just one of those days, but I feel like you make your own luck. And if you don't put in the required amount of effort, you can't really sit there and blame anyone but yourselves. And it's just going to be another horror show over 2 weeks. And Pelters are already, I can see in the comments, Pelters coming for Ange Postecoglou. 10th in the league. Nuno got sacked apparently for being 15 points after 10 games. And Ange has only got 16.
And I think there was a response in that second half, and obviously we did get back in the game, and obviously, Solanke had that chance later on, and we had a few chances, but at the end of the day, you can't keep going behind at home. We've gone behind 13 of the 15 of our last 15 home games. That is unacceptable. Yes, it's all well and good when we turn it around, but you can't keep relying on us continually turning it around over and over again, and especially when you're giving a team like Ipswich a 2-goal lead. That is, you've only got yourself to blame if you don't go on and win the game. It's, how we approached that first half was absolutely atrocious, and we lacked so much intensity. We're losing so many 50-50s. Decky had a very quiet game today. He just wasn't getting involved, and that's really unlike Decky Kulusevski, but he was completely out of the game today. We were not pressing. They were finding it so easy to play out of our press, which is just not like Spurs. And
why do you think he didn't bring Maddison on earlier?
Yeah, it's a great question.
To play alongside Kulusevski to try and pick the lock, to try and open the door.
I don't know. He waited to what, 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go to bring him on, and by that point, we were already in panic stations. We're already, the urgency was at a maximum. And if he brings them on earlier, while the game is still, you can afford to still have a bit of patience, earlier in the game, and you have a Maddison who's going to get a bit more time on the ball, and that maybe he can make a bit more of an influence. When you bring him on when it's like 2 minutes to go and every ball is basically just flung into the box in hope, that it's obviously going to be a lot more difficult for him. And I don't know why. To be honest, Maddison came on and didn't really play well, but I think he was brought on way too late. I don't understand why we waited so long, and that it was really perplexing. As you say, someone's playing number 10 for a lot of that second half, and I think it would be much better served to have Maddison in that situation rather than Son.
Moss Chop says Spurs the charity giving to these teams in need.
Yeah,
it's true.
Taking from the rich and giving to the poor. That's exactly what we do. We take from the big teams and we give them to the small. That's what we do.
Another thing I want to mention is just the poor decision-making, endless naivety. The amount of times we just plopped corners or crosses into Murich's hands. The amount of times we fouled their players, Ipswich players, when all they wanted to do was feel the body and go on the floor and waste more time. And if Ange Postecoglou does not get into those players, they should have learned that after the Palace game.
Yeah, we did exactly what
happened at the Palace game.
Exactly the same.
So Kieran McKenna has basically, this week, while we've been in Turkey, he's made his Ipswich team watch the Palace game. And they've gone, if you play like that, if you get in their faces, if you go down every time you feel something behind, and if you keep a clean sheet, you will win that game. And they didn't even have to keep a clean sheet in the end, because they scored 2 goals in that first half. And you're right, the first half was absolute dross. The second half, I'm up for saying it was even as bad, because Ipswich didn't even try and play football in the second half. So we could just play our game. But we just embarrassed ourselves.
You're right. I think that what was Andrew be most frustrated about is how naive we were. We just kept allowing the breathing moments to stop the game for a minute here, a minute there. Those 2 fouls in the corner in stoppage time, where all they're going to do is try and shield the ball and win a foul, and we just play right into our hands. A Doggy, Basuma, whether it's frustration, whatever, just making all these fouls, allowing Ipswich that breathing room to just waste more time and kill the game essentially. Yep. And as you say, against Palace, exactly the same thing happened. And maybe this team just need more learning, because at the moment they haven't learned their lesson, and it's so frustrating watching this team, because on their day they can be so good. We've seen it in recent weeks against the likes of City, against Aston Villa in the last couple games. When we're on our game and when everyone is pressing with intensity and playing with aggression and not allowing teams time to breathe, we're a very tough team to play against. But every time we seem to be looking like we're getting over that hump, or getting over we've learned our lessons, something like this turns up. We just beat Man United 3-0 away, and then the next game we lose when we're 2-0 up against Brighton. We beat we win these 2 games against Man City and Villa. We go up and turn up against Ipswich and lose this game. Just before the Palace game, we looked like we had turned a corner as well. We had a good result just before that game, and we go and lose away at Palace. I wouldn't be surprised we go and beat Man City next after international break, and then we go and lose against Fulham or something. Like, that is just the way we are at the moment, and the inconsistency is absolutely infuriating. That was at 5 losses now in the Premier League this season. It's 5 wins and 5 losses, 1 draw, and that is a very similar, very very similar record that Nuno had. The difference with Nuno is we were playing dross compared to us, where you can see that we can play good football at times. There's a bit of difference, but this inconsistency, he can't survive a whole season like this. That's the reality.
A couple of super chats. Scorpions Fans for Life says Palace version 2, no fight when the game is scrappy. And then Joseph Vukovic, we're mid to high table, 3rd to 10th place is too competitive. Do you agree with that?
Well, the reality is, after today's result, we're still 3 points off third. Yeah, we're still there's a 3-point gap between where we are in 10th and 3rd. So the table is absolutely packed together. Yeah, but
do you think? I mean, do you think?
I can I can argue.
Every mid to lower table club is going to just show that game, the Palace game, and come and do the same. And we don't have the tools. We're still at least a player or 2 light in terms of. I go back to the Eza thing. I personally think that their plan was to bring Eza in, but then Elise left and then Richarlison didn't leave, and that didn't happen. But we need more players who can do something a bit different in these kind of games when when things are difficult, game changers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't think the squad is perfect. I think this squad is good enough to be beating, Ipswich at home and getting better results and showing a bit more consistency. I think we do have a good squad here, but we just can't seem to get this consistency right at the moment, especially after European games. I don't know if it's a drop in intensity and we seem to not be able to press as effectively when we got a midweek away game, but the reality is we've been managing the squad and he doesn't seem to play players too often twice in a week. He seems to be managing their minutes well, but this inconsistency is absolutely maddening. And when you got a chance like today to go third in the table, go above Arsenal and Chelsea before they play later today, and we've got such a game like Ipswich where it doesn't get. I mean, look, Ipswich are a decent team. I was saying before the game they have picked up decent results away at Brighton and at home to Villa, but this is a team who haven't won a game this season. That's the bare facts of the matter. Yeah. They're a team who have come from the Championship. They've won 0 games, and they shouldn't be a team high on confidence. They shouldn't be a team where we shouldn't be able to get at them. And the way they ended the game, it was as if they weren't hanging on for their dear life, were they? At the end of that game, they saw it out pretty comfortably. They saw it out like they're with a team who have been winning games consistently this season, and that has got to be a real concern. We put them under pressure, but in stoppage time they announced 8 minutes. We had one chance for Solanke, which, let's be honest, came from a mistake from Ipswich. It wasn't really from our good play, and they were able to sit out way too comfortably for my liking. And just got to, be responsible for that. It's absolutely atrocious result. It was a really atrocious performance. And we're back to the drawing board. This team really does your head in. You don't know what you're going to get at the moment in terms of results. You just don't know what team's turning up. And I was sitting here after before the Palace game saying, we've actually given a really decent level of, a really fairly consistent level of performance. Like, even if we lose games, we're still playing in a fairly consistent way. But today, and the last few weeks, like against Palace and today, has shown me that there's way too much inconsistency in terms of performance. We still don't know what Tottenham's turning up. And Ange will be absolutely tearing his hair out as to the fact that he must have put so much work into this team, trying to learn the lessons from these losses that we've had this season. And we just can't get it through our heads how to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And if that keeps happening, ultimately it will cost him his job at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think, but as I said earlier, I think Ange, he'll be tearing his hair out because the players are showing a weak mentality, but also he's making some bad decisions himself. I think he has to play Kulusevski alongside Maddison today. He didn't. We go 2-0 down. I think he then has to change it quickly. He doesn't. Instead, he brings Sonny into a bizarre number 10 position, takes him completely out of the game, takes Kulusevski out of the game at the same time, our two most creative, dangerous players. And like you said, Ipswich just kept us at arm's length pretty much. I mean, we had a couple of little chances at the end that kind of fell to us, but very, very, very disappointing. And most disappointing because I honestly spent most of the week being like, and I don't gamble anymore, but being like, I'm going to put money on Ipswich to win this because it's just too obvious. It's too obvious.
Our last 5 results before international breaks: 4-1 loss away at home to Chelsea, 3-0 loss away at Fulham, 2-1 loss away at Newcastle, 3-2 loss away at Brighton, and today the 2-1 loss away at Ipswich. That's 5 defeats before an international break on the bounce. I don't know what it is with this team. Maybe they think, I can phone it in because I'm not going to be seeing the gaffer for 2 weeks, so I don't need to put my all in. But for some reason, whenever we play before an international break, it's like they're intent on giving us a miserable 2 weeks.
Sorry to interrupt, but can I ask you about Romero? Because we spoke before the game about Romero, and I said I'm a little bit worried that maybe he's insisting on playing on this game when he's not 100% fit because he wants to go out for Argentina. He put in an absolute stinker today. He looked like he was ill for a start. I wonder if he'd taken like a pain-killing injection or something, because he was shanking the ball off left and right. He was letting the ball bounce, getting in terrible positions, and he's added there another shocking display to, at the very least, a number of performances this season where he has lost concentration for very important moments. And I think today is an example where Big Ange has to say to him, and if you're not 100%, I'm not going to play you.
Yeah, and Davis has come in last few games and played well. So I think maybe Dave. I mean, look, if he's not 100%, then Davis probably should have played. But Herrera had a stinker. I thought Dragoshin played really poorly as well. I thought he didn't cover himself in any glory for the goals, and I thought as well, his on the ball, he's just so atrocious. But Romero, as you say, he's our leader at the back, and he wasn't anything but that today, and it was really frustrating to watch.
This is a good super chat. Actually, read that out because it's very very relevant.
Pac McWilliam says no leadership at all. Romero looks like a mute who can't talk. Madders look checked out. Sonny is too nice. We need some mongrels in the squad. And that was a big talking point after the Brighton game about that lack of leadership when things are going against us. And, same thing happened against Palace. Same thing happened again today. There is a real lack of desire for players to pull themselves out of difficult situations. And that is definitely something that's been hurting us way too often this season.
Yeah, look, mate, it's just shit. I'm sorry, it's just shit. There's not much more to say about it other than it's familiarly shit, and Spurs will continue to do this until these players start to get the realization that if you don't turn up to every game playing your absolute hardest, you will get rolled over, and it'll happen again. And you said it. It wouldn't surprise. I mean, it would be as Spurs could be to then go and beat Man City away.
Yeah,
it would. It will suit us a lot more to play Man City away, but it is also Ange's job to find ways to beat these teams. And I think he made some bad decisions today. I have to say, what do you think? But I wonder if he's fallen out with Maddison a little bit. I wonder if something's happened.
Yeah,
he had a little bit of a go at him after the Galatasaray game, didn't he? I wonder if he's punishing him for that.
Yeah, he was, because he was asked about him in the England squad, wasn't he? And he kind of said, well, kind of implied he wasn't playing well enough to be in there. Yeah. So I wonder if there's, something's happened between those two. I thought when he came on, he was poor, but he only had 5 minutes. But why has he only got 5 minutes in a game where was crying out for a bit of Maddison creativity and a bit of his magic? So that has got to be a bit of a question mark at the moment for Spurs and Ange Postecoglou. And what must Ange be thinking when he sees these performances over the last few weeks where we seem to have turned a corner? Before today it was 9 wins out of 11, and good wins against City and Villa, and we look like we've turned a corner again. And then we put in a performance like this at home, and the narrative was, the problem is away from home, and at home we're actually okay. And then today we lose at home.
I think the players believe that narrative. We rock up and just think they're going to turn Ipswich over. Embarrassing. Andrew Dean has written in, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, Man City on 4-game losing streak. They play us next at home. Dr. Tottenham in town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will be a miracle for us to make top 5. Be prepared for disappointment.
Look, as I say, at the end of the day, everyone's very inconsistent right now. We're not the only ones suffering from this bug of inconsistency. As they point out, there's 3 points between 3rd and 10th. So the reality is, as much as it's maddening and pulling our hair out to watch this inconsistency from our team, I think a lot of teams are probably suffering the same thing, given how close the table is. Everyone must be suffering from it. It can't just be us if the table is that close. So I wouldn't say it's a miracle to be top 5 because the table is that tight. So a win, you can jump into the top 4 from 10th, which is crazy. So as long as it stays that time, we're still in and amongst it. I don't think you can ever rule us out. But when we're losing to teams who are winless, and we're losing to teams in the relegation zone, and we're losing, away to Palace and at home to Ipswich, the alarm bells have to be ringing after those results, 100%. And the frustrating thing is we have those results, but before that, we beat City and Villa, who are 2 very good teams, and it's not easy to beat those teams. And so that can't be discounted. But losing to Palace and Ipswich in the manner that we did, lacking fight, especially in the first halves, being bullied, especially Delap bullying our centre-backs and bullying our defenders, losing duels. That has got to be something very frustrating. And it just seems as though whatever side we put in, we seem to be just lacking that balance. We thought taking Maddison out and putting Sarr in would solve that problem, but it hasn't solved it. We thought maybe swapping Bassoon and Bentancur would solve it. It hasn't solved it. No. So it clearly isn't a completely personnel issue, is it?
Do you think there's any part of Levy that will start getting an itchy trigger finger? Do you think he fully believes in the project, that he's got the right man? And a lot of fans have been saying this season, haven't they? Oh, I don't care about the league. I just want to win a cup. I
don't think Levy thinks that.
No.
But I don't think he does, only because the league is so tight. And we know a runner wins and we're right up there. So as long as that's a situation, I think he sticks with him. If it ever gets to a situation where the top four are pulling away from us and we're, the gap goes to, 8, 9, 10 points, I think at that point he might look at the situation.
Where would you go next if he ever sacked Ange?
Where would I go next if he ever said? I haven't thought about it. But I mean, I would like Nagelsmann if he ever wanted to leave Germany. Maybe we can convince him, someone like that. But I don't know. I mean, where else is there to go? We've tried every different thing, but I don't. Who's available right now? Maybe Iraola from Bournemouth. I wouldn't mind him. He's a good manager, but is there a guarantees he's going to be better than Ange? I don't know. I'm trying to Marco Silva from Fulham, but again, that'll be a bit underwhelming. He had his chance
at Everton, didn't he?
They're doing very well, Fulham, at the moment.
No, they are. But
I think, that's why I wouldn't be in a rush to sack him, because there's not too many great options right now who are available. But I don't think it's at that stage yet. I know it's frustrating. I know when you're losing at home to a team who are winless, that's the last winless team left in the league, I think, and we've given them that win. And after, when you're looking at that, that's got to be a massive alarm bell, especially at home. But at the end of the day, as much as however frustrated we are 3 points off third, and I know we're 10th, and I know there's another 6 teams who could say they're 3 points off third, but we are one of those. And as long as that's the situation, nothing, you can never say we're out of it. So that's it. But look, it's time to move on to the post-match fan show. That is your instant match reaction. What has been a devastating 2-1 loss to Ipswich. We'll see you all shortly. It's time where it's your time to have your say on the fan show. But we'll see you all very, very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.